Yeah, probably the first time I noticed one of these was when I saw the Stones in Hyde Park film from '69 on TV. And for about half the gig, Keith was playing a 330. So I found out what guitar it was. I noticed it was different to a 335 or whatever. So I went out to try and find one and try one out. And I went into a shop in London and they had a bunch of them. And when I tried one, I just thought, wow, yeah, I'd really like to get hold of one of these. I think I was playing a 355 at the time or something. But I didn't buy one until I moved to London, I don't think. But it was a combination of that, and then I realised the connection with that with the Casino, the Beatles records. Also seen Paul Weller playing his Casino. I thought the sound was great, he got out of that. You know, so then that sort of led me down the journey of when I moved to London and I was around the guitar shops, and the guitar shops was trying loads more stuff out because there was more vintage stuff here. And I decided I really wanted one. And yeah, trying to think, actually Grant Green as well, I really liked, you know, a total different end of sound-wise, but I loved his tone on those recordings. He seemed to use one a lot from, I guess, through the 60s really, or maybe up to the late 60s, a lot of his records, you know, that was his guitar. So yeah, I went through a few of them and I wound up with this one. I've had a few come and go over the years, but this has been the best one I've had out of the lot. I think this was the third one I owned or something. But they were quite affordable, they weren't too expensive when I got into them, you know. I had a 335 that was quite desirable actually. I moved to London with a 64 335, like the Cream guitar, a red one. And but it was quite valuable for me. I was taking around little gigs and stuff, and I put the word out it was up for sale, and this guy came around my house through Andy Hackett of Angel, said, oh, my friend Ed would like to come look at your guitar. So he came around, this guy came around, had a look at it, and he made me an offer there and then, and I turned him down. And then he called me and asked if I'd reconsider, and I asked for a bit more money and he agreed. So I met him at the bank and he gave me a check and I paid it in or whatever, and he got the guitar, and he said, oh, you're sad to sell the guitar. I'm going off piece there a bit, but he said, oh, you're sad to sell the guitar, and I was like, yeah, a little bit, but it's, you know, it's too nice for me. I'm going to get some, you know, more than one guitar for the money. And he said, oh, I'm in a band, I'll look after it and stuff. And I said, oh, what's your band called? He said, oh, Radiohead. And I was like, oh yeah, and it was Ed from Radiohead. I didn't have any idea who he was, but lovely guy though, and he still got it. But with that, I managed to buy 2 330s and a 60s telly with the money, which was pretty good at the time. And bought and sold a few 330s. I was in Denmark Street, this came into a shop, and I opened the case and I was like, shit, I want that. And I had a 64 that was in better condition, put that on the wall. When they sold it, they kept the money, and I took this home. That's how I got it. 325s are great, but these feel really different for a start because they're totally hollow. The neck is set deeper into the body, it joins at, was it 15th fret or something. So the whole guitar is more compact. P90s give you a different voice. So although they look similar, the feel is, it's not totally unfamiliar if you're used to a 335, but it is a different thing, and you get a different kind of, technically you'll get less sustain, but with that you get a different kind of dynamic, percussive sort of punch with it. And I found it to be really good for things like, at the time I was really into, you know, things like the meters, the kind of sort of soul funk, sort of blues crossover stuff. It was really good for all those kind of sounds. And because Grant Green was using one, I was really interested in his sound. But then also I knew that it was on Stones records and things like that. And also looking into it, people like Slim Harpo, you know, he was playing one, similar age to this, I think. So I found that although it's not as ringy and sustainy as some guitars, in some ways you could use that to your advantage. You know, like playing those kind of things like, I'm probably not playing this right or in the right key, but those kind of meters, things like... You get that sort of percussive attack, you know. those kind of sounds. It was cool for that. I found that sort of choppy stuff. The Grant Green stuff, I can't play like Grant, but you get those kind of... It's good for those choppy kind of things. But there's quite a lot of attack out the pickups as well. Like that. You get it quite rocking on the back, you can get it quite beatily, sort of Revolver-esque I suppose, and sort of more like a kind of 60s garage and freak beat thing as well, I thought. Kind of Pretty Things sort of sounds, you know, and all that. So, yeah, and if you really crank it, I could kind of do a bit of the Neil Youngy thing with it as well. But I started to get into the Bigsby later on, after probably really getting into Neil Young. I like Bernard Butler. I also like what Edwin did with the Whammy by Edwin Collins, although he did it a lot with his Strat, you know, seeing him, A Girl Like You, and then we started working with Edwin a lot, and his sort of approach and attack to the guitar. You know, I don't know if I can turn this up a bit, but... I like those kind of sounds we could get with it, you know. And then I started to realise, you know, a lot of the kind of 50s sounds you could get out of the Bigsby as well. So using that sort of came later, because I didn't have a good Bigsby on it when I got it, and it wasn't playing as great as it could. It didn't have one with the extra bar, so the break angle wasn't great. So I didn't mess with it until I got this on it, and then it sort of brought it to life. And also you get more low end out of the guitar with this, I think the way the strings wrap around the metal. I noticed you got a better bass response out of it. Bass became a little heavier. You know, could get a good... So yeah, that really brought it to life when I got that on it. I managed to get that for 50 quid. Just a guy walked in a guitar shop and I was in there, does anyone want to buy this? So I just went to the bank and got 50 quid and got that off him. So, but I had to screw it into the top of the body, but it didn't matter really, because I know it would work and stuff. So yeah, just made that commitment there, you know. When I first said to people, I want to get 330, I was like, you can't use them, you can't gig them. You know, everyone's like, there's no point, you know, everyone's like, you're going to have to stuff it full of loads of foam and all this stuff. And I've never found that at all. Although, you know, I don't use sort of really tall amps. I tried it once with the Primal Scream to a Marshall stack, and it did feedback then with taller, you know, speakers more at body or head height. But with me playing with Little Barrie, I'm using a white bassman or whatever, that's fine. And I always set the amp slightly to the left anyway, so that it doesn't get down your vocal mic. But I've used this with fuzz boxes, you know, super fuzz and fuzz face and tone benders and stuff, and it's all right, you know. A bit of that wildness is good, you know. You can use it to your advantage, really. I don't mind the odd screech and stuff, but I think because the way I play is quite percussive, I don't do a huge amount of super long ringing chords. But I just got used to muting it. You know, you can control it just by keeping your hands on the guitar. It is a little bit noisy, but it doesn't matter really. Although modern stages with modern light systems, it can make it, the noise can be pretty, depends on the gig you're doing, you know. But you can get, like we were saying before, you get really sweet tones when you back the volume off a little bit. You know, you get those sort of nice sort of... done loads of gigs with it. You know, that's why it's pretty, you know, it did get a bit mistreated sometimes actually, which I wouldn't do anymore. I used to stand it upside down at the end of gigs and stuff, but that was pretty stupid. But this has been on here for years. McCormack's in Glasgow, bargain bin, 10 quid. But yeah, I've done hundreds of gigs with it, and it's probably my favourite guitar, really.